Manchester United versus Tottenham FA Cup Combined 11 special. How important is a Combined 11 actually? Well, actually it's very, very important because not only is it an indication of who's got the better players, but it's also a massive indication of the task that each team's play. We're also, towards the end of the video, we're going to talk about tactics and how Manchester United will, should and could approach this game. And obviously Lukaku versus Kane is a big one. What do you think in the live comments? Lukaku or Kane? Does the bias of Manchester United push him past Harry Kane? As we've been saying on this channel for a long time, the facts are out there. It's not hidden. I remember saying it months ago. Harry Kane averages around 5 chances a game. Lukaku averages around 2.5. So Harry Kane's getting double the chances Lukaku is, and Lukaku scored a lot of goals. Does that mean that Harry Kane would score less goals in the United shirt? I actually think not, because I think Harry Kane is a better player than Lukaku. Hence, I've just given you one of the players in my combined 11 there. But we'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. Thanks everybody who's joined us tonight. Big, massive game tomorrow. Really looking forward to it. But let's not underestimate the task and let's whack on into this combined 11 and get the discussion up and running. Hopefully I got my pitch up on there. Okay, I don't think there's any arguments here. It's got to be Lloris in goal. It's not. It's De Gea in goal. No argument at all there. If anybody thinks Lloris should be over De Gea, I think you've got a real problem. And then we move on to the next position, which is right back. Now, if you'd asked me in January, and very close still now, I probably would have said Antonio Valencia. And I know that there'll be people in the comments saying you're mad what you're about to do. But I am going to be totally unbiased with this. I have watched a lot of Spurs this season, and I would go Kieran Trippier. Now, some people would say Serge Aurier is better, and they've got him. But you know what? United were linked to him. I did quite like the look of him. But I prefer Trippier. More consistent. I think Valencia on his day is better. I think Aurier on his day is better. But are those two players on their day enough? And the thing that pushed me onto Trippier over Valencia was quite simply his ability to put a cross into the box. You talk about chances that Lukaku gets compared to Kane. Kane gets a lot of decent ball into the box from a number of players, but Trippier and Davies as well at left back, they provide decent ball into the box. And I think from a combined 11, if I'm putting a combined 11 out, I like Valencia, fantastically consistent, but he doesn't have that quality of ball into the box. So for me, see what the comments say. I'm going Trippier. Callum says Valencia's way better. Prince R9 says that Trippier is really good. Luke Swill says fair play. And Jake Wilders says Trippier is amazing. I don't know. Somebody just said Trippier is a B-Tech Valencia. But Trippier can actually cross. And I've watched a lot of him this season. I've watched a lot of Spurs because of the Champions League watch-alongs on That's Football. And, you know, I would back him. I think he's a good player. Centre-back, first one, Toby Alderweireld. Very good centre-back. Very good centre-back. In fact, I may as well just do this. Spurs centre-backs, Vertonghen and Alderweireld. I mean, Spurs fans could argue, why have you not put Sanchez in there? Because, a bit like Bailly, I think he's got the potential to be world-class. But at the moment, he's not quite there. Alderweireld and Vertonghen are the experienced two. Spurs have got a very good centre-back pairing. They're both good on the ball. They're both good in the air. They're both very strong. I did consider putting Eric Bailly in, and I normally do put Eric Bailly in a combined 11 when we've done Liverpool and Man City, because I think Eric Bailly is better than their centre-backs. But I think those two are two very, very good centre-backs. They're very intelligent. They play the offside rule very well. They're good at bringing the ball out from the back. They're very strong. They're very competitive. They're a very good centre-back pairing. And I can't move away from that. I can't put Smalling or Jones in there. Of course I can't. Bay's the only one who can really contend with them. And Bay's not really played enough this season, has he? So potential there. But then you could say Sanchez as well. The lad they got from Ajax is a good player there as well. So I'm going to go with it. In fact, apart from De Gea, I'm going to go with the Spurs back four. I think Spurs have got a very, very good defence. It's something that they don't get a lot of credit for. Very, very good defence. Very strong at the back. Very consistent when they can put that four out. And the fullbacks like to get forward and they deliver a very good ball. Davies puts in a better ball than Trippier. Really, really good going forward. I liked him at Swansea. He was always in my fantasy Premier League team. I mean, to be honest with you, they could reel out Danny Rose and he'd make a combined 11 because our left-back situation is a farce. But it's embarrassing from a defensive setup that United have that I've gone with the Spurs back four. Because you wouldn't think that, would you? From a United perspective, you'd think we are a defensive team, we're a conservative team. But this just highlights to me the brilliance of David De Gea, that actually our defence is pretty much based on De Gea. Where's the consistency in our back four? Ashley Young's not very good defensively. Valencia has lost a lot of consistency lately. Bay's never really been fit. Smalling, is he top class? I like Smalling, but is he? So for me, it's a Spurs back four. And I can't move away. I mean, Zupu says Ashley Young should be there. You really need to get out and watch a bit of Spurs, mate. Ben Davies absolutely craps all over Ashley Young. Absolutely annihilates him, I'm sorry. Anyway, we move on to the back three. The midfield three. I'm going to go with a 4-3-3 because I think that's a situation that Spurs don't really work, but I think it would work best of all. I'm going to go with... the midfield was difficult and I had to sort of pick a combination of what I felt. And I went with Matic. I nearly went with Herrera because I like Herrera in that position, but actually, as a holding midfielder, to hold the midfield together, I did go with Matic. I nearly went Wanyama. I would never have gone Eric Dyer. I probably wanted Dyer over Matic in the summer just because he's a little bit more mobile, but Matic is the better player. Wanyama, I do like Wanyama. I very nearly went to him, but actually, I think Matic is better. But Wanyama is a bit more of a Kante sort of player. You'd want him just buzzing around. To be honest with you, I probably would go Wanyama just because of the football I like. But I did think about you lot and I thought, we need to get some United players in here as well. And you can make a good case for Matic. So I went with Matic, but I probably would prefer Wanyama. But Wanyama doesn't play every game for Spurs either. So that lent me back towards Matic. So I've gone with Matic in there. And the next player will not be a surprise for anybody. I've put him there. You can put him on the other side. I just think he's massive. He's one of the best midfielders in Europe. I think he's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the fact that he's 30 probably means he's not going to go anywhere. But I absolutely think he's a brilliant player. I really liked him at Fulham. He used to come to United and play really well. He's so tenacious in the tackle. He's so quick on the ball. He can dribble with it. He's very cultured. He's very aggressive. He's just a really good midfielder. I'd argue that he's probably one of the most important players Spurs have got. And he hasn't always been picked. But I think he's absolutely fantastic, Dembele. And walks into the team for me. No problems at all. So yeah, I don't think I'd have any problems with that. Mark J says, if I didn't know you any better, I'd think you were a Spurs fan. To be honest with you, I've done a few of these combined 11s, and actually I'm really hammering home this on purpose. I'm not going to be biased, and I never normally am biased. I mean, I think when you look at a Liverpool team, front three very good, midfield quite weak, defence quite weak apart from one, and the goalkeeper's about as good as a plastic bag floating in the wind. Man City have spent a lot of money and they've won the title, but I still think there's players that United can get in there. Same with Chelsea. But when it comes to Spurs, the reality is Spurs just miss a backbone, and maybe a Matic and De Gea into their team would be two players that would just make them have a backbone, because they just miss something. Spurs, they've been very consistent, and then let's not forget, Spurs have been very consistent for the last 3 years. I think they should have won a title in the last 3 years, and the reason they haven't, they've bottled it. Anyway, Dele Alli on form, says Kevin O'Callaghan. Well, let's move on to the next position. I've gone Eriksen in a more attacking position because I think Matic will sit back. Dembele is ultimate box to box, so energetic, does a lot of the defensive work, carries the ball, but I'd probably say Dembele's a little bit more defensive than offensive, which would give Eriksen the freedom. So I've gone with a three-man midfield of Christian Eriksen in there, because then it's going to allow me to do what I want to do in the attack. So no place for Pogba, no place for Dele Alli. That's my midfield three. We'll move on into the attack. Now, when we're looking at the attack, I'm going to slightly change it a little bit because I know Mourinho doesn't do this, but the reality is Spurs don't really have width. They've got Son, they've got Lamela, but I don't put them in the same category as I'm going to put these two people. So I'd have Alexis Sanchez there, and I'd have Anthony Martial there in a combined 11. Now, people are probably going to drop their tea or whatever they're drinking on a Friday night or a Saturday or a Sunday morning, maybe a bit, whatever. But that's what I would go with, because Alexis Sanchez on form is world class. I just don't think he's had a very good season at Arsenal, and moving to United disrupted him. I also think he's faced challenges at United. This Pogba thing is an issue for him, and I think he'd be great on the right hand side. I also think that Martial, out of the two teams, is the best left-sided player in both those squads. And also, when I was thinking about this, I thought, you know what, I can't just look at this from Mourinho's point of view. I can't look at it from Pochettino's point of view. I've got to look at it from a fan point of view. And actually, I think a lot of Spurs fans would like Anthony Martial to be in their team, because they don't really have. That's where Spurs suffer for me. Apart from their fullbacks bombing on, they don't really have any, out and out wingers. And I think Martial would walk into a Spurs team. And I think the team that I'm trying to build here would work really well. So I think Sanchez and Martial get in because they're good enough. Granted, they don't really play in them positions for Manchester United very often, but let's not forget, up until January, Anthony Martial with Leroy Sané was probably the best left midfielder in the country. Alexis Sanchez on his game is one of the best players in the country. So yes, on form, maybe not, but I'm looking at a combined 11 here, and that's what I'm going with. I love Martial, but Son is currently better, says Andy. Look, if that's what you think, that's fine. My opinion, Kane and Lukaku are both overrated, says Andrew Ellis. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Jake Bullman, there's no Valencia because there's no Valencia. I explained that at the time. Mohammed says Son over Martial. Sunderlal says Son. Yeah, look, I'm not blind, and I did look at it. I went with what I thought in my combined 11, and I think this team would be absolutely fantastic. Dembele where Matic is, Pogba and Eriksen are centre midfielders, then Son, Kane and Sanchez, says Mark J. Yeah, not bad, not bad at all. And Ratik says Sanchez is world class, not at the moment, but on form he is. And Mark Goldfish, mate, Pogba on his best day is always going to be better than Dembele. Mate, have you seen Dembele against Pogba? Pogba's been put in his pocket every single time they've played. If Pogba turns up tomorrow, I'll revise this 11. But at the moment, Dembele always dominates a Manchester United midfield. And that's been going on for years. Whenever he plays, every preview I've ever done, I've always said, is Dembele injured? Because he always does well against United. I've never seen Pogba turn up against Dembele. And that's why Pogba's not in there. I hope he turns up tomorrow. I'll redo the video. Up front, I'm going to go, well, it's Lukaku or Kane, isn't it? Harry Kane or Lukaku. And I'll go Harry Kane. So the reason I've done that is because I think Harry Kane's a better player than Lukaku. And I think a couple of years ago, they mirrored each other. Like, they were scoring a lot of goals, Everton and Spurs. But I think this season, I've said it a few times, Harry Kane has stepped ahead of Lukaku, a massive stride ahead of him, because Harry Kane and Lukaku always, they had this thing, flat track bullies, because they scored a lot of goals against the lower teams in the Premier League. Now, Harry Kane hadn't scored against United up until last season, but this season Kane's done it in the Champions League. He's done it consistently against the top teams. If you think about that Liverpool game, nerves of steel, having missed a penalty, he's just gone up a level, Harry Kane, and I personally would agree with Andrew Ellis. I always thought, what is it about Harry Kane? I don't really get what it is about him. He scores all these goals, but I can't really see what he's all about. But this year, he's been so consistent against the better teams. He is way ahead of Lukaku. Basically, I would personally go for Kane anyway, because he's just got a much better touch. He's a much better dribbler of the ball, and he can do everything else Lukaku can do. Lukaku's been fantastic, and Lukaku would obviously sit on a bench, and if Kane was down, you'd put Lukaku in there. It's not saying Lukaku's a bad player. He's been brilliant this season, but Kane is better. I think Harry Kane is better, and he brings other people into the game better, and his build-up plays better, and I think Lukaku's stronger. That's what Lukaku's got. He's probably a little bit quicker in his stride. He's got a better left foot because he's left-footed, but I would go for Kane. So that's my combined United and Spurs 11. 7 players for Spurs, 4 players for Manchester United, and I think Manchester United are going to win this game. I've said this a few times. I think Manchester United are going to win this game tomorrow, but I think it also shows what we're up against Spurs. And actually, when you look at the strength of Spurs, you know, the front 6 positions, it's 3v3. It's in the defence where they annihilate us at the moment. We haven't got a centre-back pairing like Spurs have got. Our centre-backs, our best centre-back pairing, I think, is Jones and Bailly in Mourinho's mind, and they're both injury-prone. Our full-backs don't get forward and put good quality balls into the box like Spurs do. So tomorrow's going to be very, very difficult, but I think we can win it. It's a very unbiased team. If I was being a little bit sort of optimistic, I could have chucked Pogba in there. I would have happily took Matic out and had Dembele running the midfield, but actually I think you need a specialist in there, and I think you've got to be realistic. And at the moment, that's the combined 11 I would go with. After tomorrow night, it could change, and I think this is indicative of where Manchester United's season is, really, that they're second in the league, but a lot of people would say not many of their players get in a combined Spurs 11, even though we're ahead of them in the league. And that all comes down to one thing, really. It comes down to the fact that Spurs play a better brand of football, so you pick more of their players because they play a better brand of football. Tomorrow is a significant moment in Manchester United's season and their future, because Spurs, most United fans would say Spurs are playing better football than us, and I would like to see us play like that. Tomorrow, how we approach that game and how we come out of that game will dictate many Manchester United fans' minds as to how they feel going forward. Pogba could put in a performance tomorrow in a big game that puts Dembele and the rest of them in the shade, and you're suddenly like, that's the Pogba that we need at United. Sanchez could play absolutely world class. Lukaku could put Kane in the shade. Our defenders, Bailly, could just put in a world class performance, and then you go, well, obviously Bailly should be in there. But as of now, United sort of find themselves in that situation that even though they're second in the league, they leave United fans in such confusion every week. I mean, I always say it, don't I? We always say it on the watch along. I don't know what is our best 11. I don't know what our best 11 is. I don't know what Manchester United's going to turn up, because sometimes they're brilliant and sometimes they go to Huddersfield and Newcastle and they don't turn up. There's a lack of consistency, there's a lack of leadership. But tomorrow, there's no place to hide. It's a big club, it's a big game, and the players have got to respond. And I think if they do, it can be a real kicking point forward for what United to do. How do we approach that game tomorrow? I think that tomorrow... Well, how do you think United are going to approach it tomorrow? Do you think we're going to actually play on the front foot with a 4-3-3 and try and get at Spurs like we did against City at the Etihad a few weeks ago? Or do you think we're going to play deep and soak them up and let them dictate the game on us? Because Spurs, if you look at... I remember Spurs had a really good period around February time where they played Arsenal at Wembley, played them off the park. They played Liverpool at Anfield and they played them off the park. They went to Juventus in Turin and they played them off the park. And the two of those games were really impressive because they were away games, and then they did it to Arsenal at home, and they just pressed so high up the pitch. But the great thing was about that second half performance against Arsenal, Liverpool especially at Anfield, is they really had Liverpool playing like a sort of part of the bus team, really, because they're so good on the ball. So how do United do it? Daniel Taylor says they'll play deep. Mourinho tactics work better on the big team. With little teams he overthinks, says Bushead. I think that's a really, really valid point. Hit them on the counter, says Faze and Chowdhury, which for me means you can't play Mata. We will get at them, we must, otherwise we are screwed, says Anton Muller. Jose's bus is coming to London, says Yu Pew. I always think the bus thing is a bit of a myth anyway. And we have a better defensive record than Spurs, though. Can't be all down to De Gea. Spurs were a joke for a good chunk of this season, says Kieran Byrne. I think they had a bad November. Look, Spurs have got a better back four than us. If you don't agree, that's your opinion, isn't it? I think De Gea masks a bad back four for United. We haven't got a left back. Our right back's been quite inconsistent and knackered for 3 months. And our centre backs change every week. I think if you didn't have De Gea in goal, we would have a pretty poor defensive record. But we have got De Gea in goal. He is the best goalkeeper in the world, and he's been brilliant for United for years. But I think it's a better back four. A lot of people saying Son. Look, mate, I've gone with what I think. If you want me to take Martial and put Son in, that would be 3 United players against 8 Spurs. But that just reiterates the challenge that United have got tomorrow. I'm not underestimating it. I think it's a massive game for United. But I think we will win it, and I think we've got to win it. But it's absolutely huge for us. Absolutely huge. Mata struggles against fast teams that press high, says Pratic. I don't think we'll see Mata tomorrow. I think he had his chance last week and he blew it. And Gents Tech, look, I've not done it on today. I'm doing it on a combined 11. People never seem to understand when I say it's a combined 11. I'm going off both squads. I'm not going off who played well on Wednesday, who's fit and who's injured. I'm going off what's Spurs' best 11, what's United's best 11. Yeah, dream on. And fusion together. So that is my fusion of United's best 11s together. I'm not going off bloody like 2 days ago. I'm going off what I think is a combined 11. Get commenting below and give us yours. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do drop a like on the video. Tomorrow morning we're live at Wembley with a preview. We've got some Spurs fans with Flex, so join us for that. We are going up at about 9 o'clock. And then 4:30 tomorrow, it's the big one. It is the team news. So join us for that. Thanks everyone for watching. Get commenting below. It's opinion. What's yours? Thanks for watching.